Ow, Peter, you lied to me! I told you it was a leap of faith! Hello my friends and welcome back to Player Display. So today I have a very special review for you. I just went to a mall with a very good friend of mine and I went back to my favorite toy shop called the Toy Vault and I got very lucky there. I happened upon almost a full wave of the new Marvel Legends Hasbro Into the Spider-Verse figures. And the one that I picked up from that line is one that I've wanted for many years, being Peter B. Parker in his sweatpants and bare feet, which is something I've wanted for a very long time. So this is a really cool figure. He's got a few mechanical problems that we'll talk about when we get into the actual figure himself. But for now, let's go ahead and start with the box. Uh-oh. This box over here is actually gorgeous, although it does raise a few questions for me. So the first thing is, you can see it is in the retro style packaging with the blister board in the back, got the bubble in the front, which is kind of weird for a Spider-Man property that's so new. Like, it makes sense for like the 90s figures because back in the day, that's how figures were packed. But now you have the retro style box for characters who are relatively new, so that's kind of an interesting decision. But I mean, regardless, it still looks great. I'm not complaining about it. It's just an interesting nuance. And the second thing is, Hasbro, I thought you were going the green route. Maybe this is them waving the white flag saying, "We surrender! Here, you can have your plastic back, you can see the figures." I get a little confused up here. It says Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, which, yeah, this is pretty much based on this. This is part 1? So I'm a little confused there. I don't know exactly what that means. I know that we had Into the Spider-Verse, now we're getting Across, then it says part 1, and then this is a figure which the box also specifically cites as being from Into the Spider-Verse. You can see that, not a sticker at all, but a little image there. So, I don't know, the way that this figure is tagged up is a little bit weird and janky to me, but it looks really cool is what I'm trying to say. Off to the back, you have the figure once again in a really good looking pose with those Spider-Verse logos all over the place, and you have the rest of the figures in the wave. So we have Miles, Gwen, 2099, Jessica Drew, who is the only character here I'm not familiar with. We have Punk, Spot, and then Peter B. Parker. Downstairs, you know the drill, we have our usual
Sword Audience.
Moving off to the side.
Green Arrow.
Aslan.
C.
You.
Canada.
EAC.
And naturally,
I am Superman.
here we go, zooming straight into Peter B. Parker, who is probably one of my favorite latest additions to the Spider-Man gallery of the many people who have held up the mantle of that superhero title, and I love this animated-looking mask. I love the proportions that he has. They're just absolutely fantastic, and especially when you pair him beside the Peter B. Parker we got before in the Stiltman Build-A-Figure wave. They not only look proportionally just right, but there's a lot of interchangeable parts that can allow you to kind of create your own personal hobo Spider-Man. Here you can see you have the big ol' stylized lenses, which look very good, and then you also have the web pattern, which is sculpted very well, but I always find that, especially with the new Spider-Man figures, I wind up tracing them in with some black Gundam marker. I have a few examples, so when we go to size comparisons, you'll have a good look at what I'm talking about. Going on down, you have the spider logo, very well printed on, not too sloppy or anything. The one complaint I have about this figure aesthetically is that he has abs, although if you know the movie, that this is a more jaded, veteran, retired version of Peter Parker who kind of had a little bit of a beer belly going on, but this time he's a little bit more ripped. So, I don't know, maybe need to rewatch the movie, maybe at one point before he's got the sweatpants, he works out a little bit, he gets that gut out, I'm not too sure, so that might be an accurate. I'll have to rewatch it, but it doesn't bug me too much. I mean, the whole figure on its own still looks fantastic and cohesive. Onto the back, you get your red spider logo, also very well applied, and everything is exactly where it should be, and both this logo and the front logo are raised, which I really appreciate. I don't like it when it's too flat. It just looks very boring and spandexy. As for the arms, both are identical as you can expect. You have the red transitioning down to the usual blue, and it's worth mentioning that this figure is pinless. As I mentioned before, I don't care whether a figure is pinned much or not, except for Spider-Man, where of course you have red on the top, and you got blue on the bottom, so now you don't have that peg intruding on that coloring. You don't have like a stupid red dot in the center, so it's really nice that the Hasbro team has listened to us, and they went out of their way to fix that. So I'm glad that we can expect pinless Spider-Man from now on, unless they do reuse, which is okay. It's not a big old rain on my parade if they do that. Then, of course, you go down to some gloves, pretty standard. You don't see any type of web shooters or anything, which you don't see in the movie. That would have been kind of cool to see, like maybe TASM 2 style, have it popping out from the side. That would have been nice. And then down to the sweatpants, which we've actually seen before. Actually, I believe we've seen the torso, the abs, and then the legs, excluding the feet, on the previous Peter B. Parker. I don't know, there's just something very tongue-in-cheek about it that I really love. Obviously, he couldn't put on his pants or something like that because his body shape has changed a little. I don't know. I don't remember exactly what happened to his original pants, but they're all sculpted. They look very thrown on, makeshift, really excellent. The one issue I have with this leg sculpt, and same goes for the old Peter B. Parker we had, is the knee joints. You could see here there's very distinct tearing going on, and I don't know what's going on with the way this guy's engineered, but you have double jointed knees, which is good and all that, but then when you go to bend it back in, for some reason the joint wants to push back into itself, and as a result it causes pressure against that little notch up there on both sides. So I'm doing my best when I'm using this figure. See, it pushed out a little bit to not have that happen, but I think what I did with the last one is I used an X-Acto blade to kind of cut that away a little bit. So actually, what I'll probably wind up doing is just either purchasing or creating my own soft goods sweatpants to kind of hide all the joints. I mean, it works well with when we looked at Lizard, and he had a third-party coat to go over the plastic lab coat, so I might do the same thing here. And then going down, you have the bare feet, which I also really love. Very well sculpted. You could see all the 5 toes going on there. And then you also have some ankles, which is another thing that looks really good, but because of the style of the cartoon, they are very, very thin. So when you articulate him, you do need to be a little careful. Like, you can't just go and push in that, oh, damn, alright, I guess I just went ahead and did it. But yeah, sometimes it's worth, like, I guess bending it back down. You want to kind of hold onto the ankle, then pull it down. You see it kind of gaps up right there. Same thing happened with the original Peter that we got, so it's just something you want to be careful with. But that being said, it looks really good. This entire figure I really love. A few little things I want to fix up, again, panel lining, doing something with the knees, but other than that, love him a lot. He's everything I could have hoped for. Unfortunately, when it comes to this Peter Parker, the accessories are quite light. You had those 2 fists we just looked at, then he comes with these 2 thwipping hands, and unfortunately, that's it. He doesn't come with any webs, he doesn't come with crawling hands, which every spider person should, so that's kind of a downer, but that's not the worst thing either. Switching the hands out, really, it's never a problem. Just go ahead, pour it off a fist, select the one with the right left-handed thumb in this case, and then just pour it right on. Nice and easy, all the hands hinge in and out, looking very good. There you go, very nice. We already had a look at a few points of articulation on this figure, but let's go through everything to be sure that nothing is left untouched. As for the head, you have not a whole ton of tilt, but there's something there. You got that standard ball joint that we've been seeing on most Marvel Legends. It's not double jointed or anything, but you can go all the way back, which is fantastic. So you can have him doing the TASM 2 dive if you like. Very cool. You can also crunch all the way down. It looks a little bit weird from the side. It's a little bit awkward. I guess if you shuffle it around a little bit, it blends in a little bit better, not by a whole ton. You can also do all the swivel that you like. As for the shoulders, no butterflies, that's fine. But he does have kind of an indent, so they can go all the way in where it kind of meets his face, so you can actually go ahead and touch his hands together if you want him to swing the web. Also have a bicep swivel, and then a double jointed elbows, as we looked at, pinless of course, swivel at each wrist, and then all of them hinge in and out. As for the torso, you have a ball joint under the pecs, so he can do some swiveling. A little bit of tilt, not a ton of forward, but a hair more back, not a lot. But then you can combine that with the joint in the waist, which is also a ball joint, so then you can get a lot much forward and a lot more back. As for the legs, they kick up past 90, very good. As for going back, they V out a little bit on the butt. The butt's a little bit softer of a plastic, but they do V out, unfortunately. Not terrible. I mean, they're cartoons. They can be a little bit flimsy and janky, I suppose. You have a thigh swivel, that can go anywhere you want, unrestricted or anything. As for the knees, double jointed, as we discussed, they crunch all the way back. You crunch it back up. Again, be careful with that upper lip of that thigh piece. As for the ankles, you have a swivel where the pants meet the flesh, looking really nice. Again, be careful that it doesn't break. And then, as we saw, hold down the ankle before doing anything with the feet. They can hinge that much back, pretty much all the way. Then quite a bit forward, and then you also have some excellent rockers. So, again, there's a few QC things that are a little bit weird here, but, I mean, overall, you pretty much have all the articulation you want for a basic Spider-Man. So as for size comparisons, I think we're going to start off with the original Peter B. Parker that we got before in the Stiltman Build-A-Figure wave, who's a really cool figure, but there are a few things that weren't too great about this one that carried onto the new one that I wanted to discuss. So first of all, when you have the legs, again, it's the exact same sculpt. Actually, the color's a little bit different. You have more of a navy blue on the Hobo Peter, as I'll go ahead and call him, and then on the new one, I feel like it's more accurate. You got the gray. But at the same time, that also means you have those issues with the knee joints. You could see I did have to cut up excess plastic. Actually, now that I'm looking at it, it looks like consistently the issue is more with the left knee on both figures. So that's really just the nature of the mold, I suppose. Another thing is that both these figures are quite hard to stand. You can see they're a little top heavy. You're definitely going to need a figure stand of some sort. Like I have this acrylic one. I got these in bulk on Amazon. A third party, not branded or anything, but they work very well for these guys, I've found. Actually, this guy tumbled over so much, I actually glued the cup in his hand because I kept losing it. And then also you have the exact same issues with the ankles where it's not really an issue, I suppose, but you do need to hold down the ankle in order to move the foot. Here on this Hobo Peter, it's a little different because, of course, he has the two different shoes, so not a problem there. And it's also worth mentioning that I did do panel lining on this torso, and then over here you could see the difference, so that one just, I don't know, it has a little bit more flavor to it. And the last thing that I wanted to mention is this figure is a lot more exciting if you have the original one, because this Peter B. Parker came with a lot more accessories, one of them being the partially unmasked head sculpt, which I have over here, and it's also panel lined, so please ignore that. But you can see I actually swapped their heads, and you can have a whole bunch of different looks with this figure. I guess even if you wanted to, you could probably heat this guy up and then swap the legs with this one over here, or you could even swap out the feet, so this version could have shoes. So when you have both of these together, you can do essentially whatever you want. So this guy alone, he's good, but if you have the original one, then he's a lot more fun. I mean, then you get, of course, they each come with a pair of whipping hands, and then you, again, have this unmasked head, but you can also port onto this one. So, yeah, you have a ton of options when you have both of these guys together. Putting the original Peter B. Parker aside, here we are with the new one alongside the original releases for the Into the Spider-Verse wave. Except for this guy over here, we have Spider-Man Noir. This is the comic variant that released a long time ago with kind of a fodder hat and then this really crappy leather jacket that's deteriorated a lot over time, and also a Luger just for the hell of it. So I didn't go after the Spider-Verse variant because it was a store exclusive, and I just hated the plastic cloak, so I didn't bother going after that one. We also have the Miles Morales, the What's Up Danger version, as I like to call it, and I gave him the hand ninja hood, just because, why didn't they give him a hood, right? Come on, the hood was one of the best parts of this design. Then we also have Spider-Gwen over here, and then we also have the Spider-Ham that she came with custom panel lining, as we saw before, along with a custom anvil made of Model Magic clay, and then I also went out of the way to do a little peg, and I made that out of, I think, a Gundam model kit sprue piece, so that's something you can do if you like. I mean, it just gives him a little more height and presence, I think, as opposed to him just being a mildly articulated statue. Now for a few other size comparisons, we have him next to the Spider Carnage, who I actually got the same day as him. I actually managed to get him loose. He doesn't come with any more accessories, but I have the retro carded Ben Reilly, so that's all good by me. Now I got the symbiote variant. And then over here, we have the 6-armed Spider-Man once again, and this is another example of panel lining, just to give you an idea of what it can do for this figure. Probably going to do that after. I might try doing it in gray, but not since I did the old one with black. I might want to keep that consistent, so I'll have to have a think about that one. And then over here we have the Star Wars Black Series Muck Muck.
Oh my god, it's Spider-Man, my idol! How can I be a superhero like you?
No kicks.
Oh,
I think one of my biggest life regrets is not having seen the original Spider-Verse in theaters. I don't know, I guess I was just really wrapped up in college and then social stuff and all that, so that's one that kind of passed me by. But when I finally got a chance to watch it with some pals in the dorms, there's something about this Spider-Man that just made me very happy and excited. It was just really cool to see this new version of Spider-Man who is very old beyond his years, who's just putting on the suit the first time after several decades. He's kind of washed out, down on his luck, crying in the shower, and it's just a very sympathetic interpretation of Spider-Man that I was really hoping to see in action figure form like this. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love the hobo version as well, but it's great to have both of them, and then especially this tongue-in-cheek version with the sweatpants that just is really funny, and it really helps to bring out the humorous side of Spider-Man quite a bit. And as for this figure, it's extremely dynamic and fun, especially if you have the original one. You could swap out the heads, the hands, and everything, and even the feet and the legs if you want to throw some hot water into the mix. But really, aside from those weird knee joints, I don't have any massive issues with this figure. I want to panel line him, but that's more just a personal taste sort of thing. If you want him just like this, he still looks fantastic. He looks like a cartoon. He looks very good. And also, apologies, I wasn't able to pick up the rest of the wave. I know that a lot of people, they buy the whole waves in bulk so that way they can review them all for you, but unfortunately I'm not in the financial position to do that. I'm not paid by YouTube. I do these videos just for fun. For now, hopefully one day I get monetized. We'll see about that. That's up to you guys, really. But at least we have one figure here that can set a good example for what we can expect from the rest of the wave. And if those other figures are also going to be of this caliber of articulation, detail, and accuracy and cartooniness, then I think it's going to be a solid experience. So I really hope those other figures turn out as well as this guy, because he looks absolutely fantastic and, well, amazing, right? So thank you guys so much for watching. If you're new here, then please, as per usual, be sure to
Like, comment,
And subscribe.
or leave a bad review for your favorite comic book movie on Rotten Tomatoes.
Thanks very much, rock on, and I will see you all later. Here is the new Peter B. Parker beside our other multiverse friends. These are the ones that... not multiverse, huh? When I was at the shop, I actually saw all these guys except for Punk, and the reason why I only got Peter B. Parker is because he's the only one that I felt like I had missing from my shelf. As for Miles and Gwen, I felt like I already have versions of them that I prefer more over these older versions. And as for everyone else down here, either I didn't really care about them that much, or I feel like I already have the comic versions I prefer more. Except for Spider-Punk, I don't have the comic version of that. As for this version, he was actually the only one they did not have on the pegs when I went there. And also, he's a little bit too over the top stylistically for me, so even if he was there, I probably would have passed. But regardless, it looks like a really fun wave, and I'm not going to have him too dynamic anyways. He's just going to be standing there doing his nihilistic monologue and all that. This box over here is actually gorgeous. Though at this